My name is Devin Olson from ConnectiveDX.com, and today I would like to talk about Phoenix's SCSS style sheets. What is SASS or SCSS? SCSS is an alternative syntax to the existing SASS precompile CSS language. Phoenix uses this hybrid syntax over the more rigorous SASS syntax, leaving the development process as smooth as possible for our end users. If you're not familiar with SASS, there'll be a link in the description below. As discussed in our Phoenix introduction video, the Phoenix builds compiles our SCSS syntax and files into production-ready CSS files for us automatically. Because we're developing within a precompile environment within Phoenix, naturally, our SCSS syntax allows for us to expand upon traditional CSS features. Some of these out-of-the-box features provided by Phoenix are variables, nesting, functions and MIXINS, and inheritance. Let's go over each one of these. Variables in SASS give you the same advantages as variables in other languages such as JavaScript. Define them once, use multiple times throughout your style sheets. Variables are defined with a $ prefix and then given a value after the colon. Here's a few of our grid system variables. The first one being column, that's defined with the $, colon, a numerical value. The next two are the same as the first, except they have a px suffix. Variable colors get defined as map arrays. So in our first example, we have the $ colors, colon, open up an array, and we populated it with a series of colors that have human legible names, followed by the hex value of the color itself. Down below, in our first example, pointing to some element, we've set the background color function to a human legible name. Or even, we can use the lighten or darken function, followed up with the color, human legible name, and a percentage value of either direction we would like to alter the color. The above examples get compiled out into hex values. Nesting. Nesting enables you to define child selectors without repeating the parent. In this example, we have an anchor selector, and we've nested a color, a hover state, and an image. We use the ampersand on the hover state to indicate this, or in other words, the anchor selector. Notice we're again using our color function followed by a human legible gray medium color name. Once compiled, our nesting becomes flat, but our selectors are written as anticipated. Functions. Functions in SASS give you the same advantages as functions in other languages such as JavaScript. Define once, call multiple times. Functions are defined with the @function keyword, and the return value is defined by the @return keyword. Functions can take multiple parameters, including optional ones. Here's a simple function that's part of the Phoenix framework called parseInt. We declare a function with the @function keyword, followed by the function name parseInt, and in this case, we have an anticipated waiting value $n as our variable. Finally, within our function, we have the @return keyword to return our numerical variable with a little bit of math. Next is our REM function, part of the Phoenix framework, and is a bit more complicated, but starting out, we have our @keyword function, REM, and an anticipated target variable. Within the function, we have an if-else condition, and then our function's logic. Finally, the @return keyword returns our output. Here's an example of us using that REM function. We have an anchor selector, and we're saying its padding is equal to REM 12 pixels. When compiled, that anchor's padding gets calculated out to 0.75 REM. MIXINS. MIXINS are similar to functions in that you define them once and can use them multiple times. Rather than returning a single value like functions, however, MIXINS allow you to output multiple lines of CSS. Here's a quick example of one of our media query MIXIN. It's part of the Phoenix framework. You define a MIXIN with the @ symbol MIXIN, followed by the name of the MIXIN, and in this case, we have an anticipating value of $query as our variable. Within our MIXIN, we have a few if conditions, and then finally our logic. Here's the example of us using this MIXIN. We have an anchor, and first we're setting its display to none. Then we're including the MIXIN media, setting its anticipated variable to medium, and then opening up space to write our styles. We'll set the display to block, and then our compiled version will look like the following. An anchor with its default state to none, followed by a media query to put its display state back to block when reaching a max width of 48 EM, or 768 pixels. Inheritance. Styles can inherit styles from other styles with the @extend keyword. Styles can be inherited from placeholders or other selectors. Placeholders are not compiled unless referred to. In this example, we have a placeholder designated with the % and the name icon. We've opened up some room for some styles and filled it. In our use case below, we have two classes, icon PDF and icon Word. Within both of these selectors, we're using the @extend and extending the %icon placeholder. Once compiled, both icon PDF and icon Word inherit the %icon placeholder's styles. Now that we've discussed some of the core features of the Phoenix style sheets, I wanted to go over a little bit of the organization of the actual style sheets. So, if you haven't already watched the introduction video to the Phoenix framework, where we've set up a project, please do so now. Moving forward, we'll go into our Assets, Source, CSS directory, and the first file that we should notice is the style.scss. Taking a look here, we have a series of import declarations that are pointing to our respective folders and what looks to be an all file. If we open up Save Variables, indeed we have an underscore all.scss. If we take a look at the all.scss, it too has a series of @import declarations that are importing the local respective files. Note, in both top level and all files, whenever we use the import, we don't declare the underscore or the .scss file format. Phoenix allows you to add as many top-level SCSS sheets as you would like, and it will automatically pick those up and produce them out in your dist folder. However, if you add a new file to any one of the subfolders, you will need to declare it within your all file. The next thing we should notice is we have a series of folders that represent the core features we just went over: variables, MIXINS, and functions. It's here you'll house the code for those respective areas. Going a little bit further into variables, we have breakpoints, colors, folders, grids, icons, measurements, options, placeholders, transitions, typography, and z-index. We'll take a look at breakpoints. At the top, we have a series of helpful information that is actually rolled up into the documentation that we covered in the introduction video. You can see in our breakpoints variable file, we've set up a new variable called breakpoints, opened a map array, and set a few human legible names, such as extra small, small, medium large, and extra large, and assigned these to common breakpoint patterns. It's here, within this variable, that our MIXIN media query will utilize the names within the breakpoint map array to determine what particular media query to write out for us. Folders allows you the opportunity to change or alter the file paths within your Phoenix setup, such as the location of your images or the location of your fonts. Grid settings can be found in the grid.scss file. These are the base settings for our grid system in the Phoenix framework, such as the overall desktop layout width, how many columns, and column padding should there be. Options allows us to enable or disable grid systems, columns, or other various options you may want to extend out yourself. Placeholders is where we put all of the placeholders that we'll be using within our style sheet. Moving up out of variables, let's take a look at MIXINS. The baseline Phoenix framework comes with a bunch of helpful MIXINS, such as aspect ratio, font size, gradients, DPI, media query, retina images, RGBA, and transitions, all to be designed so that you don't have to write lengthy amounts of code. Within the MIXINS, we have a subfolder called Grid, and in here we house all of the grid system for our standard grid and semantic grids. Moving out of MIXINS, we'll take a look at Layout. Layout contains both the header and footer shell files for our site, as well as a content style sheet. Please note, this is not where page-specific styles go, but rather this is where content layout styles go. For page-specific styles, please extend out new style sheets within your modules folder. Coming out of Layout, let's take a look at functions. Like MIXINS, the baseline Phoenix framework comes with a bunch of helpful functions, such as color, EM, grid calculating, images, REM, and Z-index helping. Moving out of functions, let's take a look at our base folder. The base folder is where we house all of the baseline styles and resets for our Phoenix framework. Under base default, we have forms, lists, icons, root, tables, and typography. In most cases, you will not be editing these files directly, as most of their options are available down in the variables. If you would like to, you certainly can change the styles in here. However, we recommend that you don't change these styles, but rather extend a new sheet out in your modules. For instance, under base default, we have an _list.SCSS. This contains all of the baseline styles for our lists. If we wanted to extend this out, we would go into our modules and find a lists file as well. We've extended a new class called listPlain and began writing some new styles for lists. This helps keep a clear organizational difference between your baseline styles and your aesthetic styles for, say, page-specific content, and gives you the opportunity to do away with styles at a later point, simply referring to them within your modules folder versus digging through your base defaults. Under modules, the baseline Phoenix framework comes with a handful of helpful modules such as badges, buttons, callouts, dividers, fancy box, icons, lists, quick column classes, responsive tabs, tooltips, basic utilities, and vertical alignment utilities. As mentioned in the introduction to the Phoenix framework, all of the style sheets within our source directory will automatically be compiled out into our dist directory while having the build watch running. With that said, hopefully this gives you an understanding of some of the basic core features of the Phoenix framework style sheets, the organization of our style sheets, and how to start extending out your own styles. And with that said, thanks for watching.